This is going to be a harder video than I thought to make. I'm going to be talking about Cinemassacre. Everybody knows Cinemassacre, right? Practically the founding fathers of video game commentary. If you don't know, James Rolfe and his crew now make videos about retro games. Of course, that's if you don't know who the Angry Video Game Nerd is or what Cinemassacre is. I'm going to be talking about some things recently. Monster Madness has started up. If you don't know what that is, Cinemassacre does this, I think, every year just about. I haven't been a AVGN fan for that long, admittedly. I'd probably started 6-7 years ago, probably just before Screenwave came aboard. I didn't like Angry Video Game Nerd. I thought it was just pointless edgelord content. This dude's drinking a beer and swearing. How crazy. But some friends really liked them, so then I got into the content, and I genuinely enjoyed it. I watched a ton of it, and I followed it up until... I mean, I still do follow it, kind of. It's a rough watch, but it's kind of what we'll probably get to. But every year, Monster Madness happens. That's where they do videos about monster movies, which, of course... that I love horror movies, and it was really cool to see James talk about it because he's very knowledgeable about silent film and early horror movies, stuff that I don't know a lot about, but it's really cool to hear him talk about. Also, it's one of the times, and back then it was kind of rare for him to drop the nerd character and do videos just as James Rolfe, very much him. So those were always something to look forward to. It was very much the passion project. As much as the nerd seemed like a hobby, maybe a passion project at first, but definitely kind of felt more hobbyish to me, the Monster Madness always felt more personal, and that's kind of why I'm doing this video. Just kind of a disappointment. If you haven't heard what happened, they started Monster Madness this year, and immediately an episode is taken down for plagiarism. Also, what hasn't been publicized, I guess is the word, that there was a second video that didn't even get put up that was taken down for plagiarism. I know you're wondering how that works, but apparently they're using the platform Odyssey to put these up. If you go on their site, I think it's cinemassacre.com, they're loading these up on Odyssey, and somebody had found the bad taste one and noted some examples of plagiarism. And I did get to hear some of that, and there is a subreddit dedicated to a lot of this. So if this is a topic that interests you, some of the shadier ongoings and theory crafting of Angry Video Game Nerd, I think it's the subreddit, the Cinemassacre Truth. I'll put a link to that in the description. So they've been talking about this a lot, and you know, looking at some comments from fans in YouTube and on Facebook, things like that, some people are like, oh, who cares, James? It's not a big deal. But I think it's kind of a bigger deal than a lot of people are realizing. One, James has been talking about doing this for months. I'm working on Monster Madness. I'm working on Monster Madness. So, one thing to note is, yes, there was plagiarism, but more importantly, he's not writing these. He is writing them in various capacities. He mentions in the apology video that they are collaborative scripts. Some he wrote completely, some half and half, and some were a small portion, which he'd hand off and ask them to fill out. Now that them is Screenwave, who he recently within the last few years, I suppose. Well, I think it's been 4 or 5 years. I don't know. He's been working with a company called Screenwave. They've been helping him out. A lot of people hate Screenwave. This isn't about any kind of beef I have with Screenwave. I actually kind of like the guys from Screenwave. I don't think they have a lot of chemistry with James, but I also don't think many people have any chemistry with James. And that just means that James is kind of an awkward dude. When you watch the podcast, it really doesn't seem like any of them are on the same wavelength. And it's awkward. So I'm not here to speak ill of the guys at Screenwave. Justin, who sounds like he's the main producer of the Angry Video Game Nerd, he gets a ton of shit. I'm not entirely sure why. He's surprisingly active in that Cinemassacre Truth subreddit. I don't know why you would do that, Justin. I think it's completely crazy. And you know what? God bless you for trying and to represent and be some kind of voice of reason, or what you think is reason. Again, I'm not trying to slam you, but I just think it's ballsy to be in a subreddit that is actively dunking on you constantly. And it sucks to see, because I don't mind any of these guys. So I'm kind of rambling, so I apologize. It's definitely going to be a rambling video. So Screenwave has been helping AVGN. He's talked about it in a few videos. There's one video worth noting called AVGN Behind the Scenes and Nerd Room Tour. This is such a weird video. I usually tell people this is the AVGN Cope video. He kind of complains about how all these things take time. He talks about zip tying lights and microphones into place, which is why the videos are much less dynamic than they used to be. I don't think that's the problem. I think the issue is just him, but we'll get to some of that. He also shows how he's doing tasks like unplugging stuff, moving cables around, moving data across hard drives, and he's constantly saying how he has no time for anything. But he's doing these kind of menial tasks, which to me seem like you'd have your production company or the guys helping you with production to do so you can write the stuff that people like. I also heard that Mike Matei had written most of the old AVGN stuff, so maybe that's part of it. Maybe Mike's not helping. I would think, though, if a production company is coming to help you with production, you're going to be having them do these things. If James started going off like, oh, I got to vacuum the floor, I got to re-alphabetize my bingo balls, that's all the stuff that Screenwave should be doing while you're writing these scripts instead of hearing about these weird collaborative scripts on something that people believed was very personal and very much something that you enjoyed, but you're just kind of doing it. So anyways, you're probably like, hot dog, what are you even saying anymore? Those Monster Madness episodes get released. There was plagiarism in so far one episode that everyone has seen, one that people haven't seen, and James has only admitted to the one in the video. I'm hoping this isn't sounding nitpicking or too crazy, but I think Monster Madness was something that a lot of people were really looking forward to. And again, I think like me, there were other comments validating this and this feeling deep within inside me that this is James's baby. And he multiple times has talked about, oh, I'm working on Monster Madness. So you're thinking, all right, he's got something great cooked up. And I think the idea was great. Horror around the world, going through different countries and seeing their horror offerings. That's great. That's important. Anytime you can expose people to new horror movies or new genres, new things, that's awesome. That's great. That's a killer idea. But then to find out that these thoughts may not even be yours, and some of the excuses that have come up in tweets and Reddit posts from Justin are just sort of bizarre. There's one saying, we get a lot of stuff from James. What? We get a lot of stuff from James was old Word docs, Notepad files, or Macintosh pages kind of stuff. Migrating everything to Google Docs has been an issue a lot of the time with formatting and whatever. James keeps everything. And that's in regards to the 28 Days Later script being around for a decade. And there's plagiarism in that. You've got another one where Justin talks about combing through scripts, trying to make sure there's no more cases of plagiarism. And I don't blame Justin at all for that. There is no way you're going to willingly put something up that's plagiarized. And there's no way if I said, hey homie, can you write me a scary story about a pumpkin? And you send me that story, I'm not going to be checking that story for plagiarism. So if anyone's listening and I've contracted you for a story about a killer pumpkin, you got an easy out right there. Just find another one. But I just don't think that's feasible to do on every project. So I feel like you have to give Justin a pass there. But it's super weird, some of these cope answers about these. And Justin has admitted to at least two, citing the bad taste one that, again, wasn't publicly out there, but was up on Odyssey that James did not acknowledge. So it's a bit of a bummer. There's another tweet here saying that James wrote a ton of them, but on a few, he provides a bare bones script or outline that he then checks out later, or then he checks later. Most of the ones this month are from him, but a few aren't. And the first one was a huge problem. Won't happen again. So it's just a bit of a bummer. It's kind of a sad note for Monster Madness. Definitely feels less impactful knowing that these are written by a committee. And if this was the Goofball Gang radio or something, where we've been knowingly following this collaborative effort for years, it's a little bit different to think that, this is the opinions of all of them. If you didn't want to put in the work to write out these video summaries of how you actually feel, people would have been very okay with watching you maybe watch these with one or two of the guys and then commenting that way. I think people probably would have liked that better. I'm very surprised that more people aren't disappointed by this, I think. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one. Oh, that's not true if there's a subreddit full of them, but it's disappointing for sure. I think Monster Madness was definitely a pillar of my Halloweens and my Octobers and spooky seasons, and maybe yours too. So, of course, let me know how you feel in the comments. Am I overreacting? I'm not angry or anything. I'm just disappointed. You know, I want to hear the thoughts and ideas of James Rolfe on these movies, especially newer stuff. You know, I always felt like I never agreed with James when it came to newer movies, but older stuff, you know, he always felt like an authority. So I was really hoping to get his views on newer things, but I guess that's not what this is. And he has the same excuse every time when these things get brought up about not having time, as if he's the only man to have a family and make a video.
Why don't you have time anymore? Take a wild guess. What's the biggest thing that's different now? I have kids.
And that's crazy too. A lot of people balance work and family life, you know? But again, maybe I'm being overly critical. I'm not trying to make this a video where I bash AVGN and Screenwave, you know? But I think that I would hope that this whole situation would make James want to kind of get his house in order and say, okay, this is the way things are going to be. Maybe he could rekindle his spark and love, because a lot of people, myself included, feel that spark and love that he had for the Angry Video Game Nerd is no longer there. And that's okay. That's about the time when you realize it and you figure out what you really want to do. Now, and I know this video is long, so if you need to tap out, feel free, but now it kind of looks like that passion has gone to his Project Rex Viper, which is his band that he plays in with a couple other guys where they combine video game songs, and it seems like 80s songs. I don't like it. It's not about whether I like it or not. I've just seen people roast it, so I know it's not the most popular, but he's enjoying himself, and that's cool. But it would also be great if you could enjoy the thing that brought a lot of people here, and if not, maybe it is time to call it quits. In what I had called the Cope video earlier, James seemed kind of mad that people suggested that he quit, as if it was kind of an insult to him, telling him to just give up, give up, give up. But I don't think that's what it is at all. I think it's people genuinely can tell that he's maybe not happy, especially if he's not putting in much effort from what it looks like. Maybe it is time to call it quits. Maybe it is time to retire. Seinfeld got to retire on a high note. Why couldn't James, you know? And you can tell his heart's not in it. So, James, if you're watching this for some reason, I hope you figure out what you actually want to do and end up doing it. It doesn't seem like you want to do this anymore, and that's okay. That's fine. You know, I don't think you'll lose respect from the fans, because right now the content as a whole, man, I didn't want the video turned into this whole critique and rant about Angry Video Game Nerd, but it just seems like you're not that into it anymore. And whether it is because of familial obligations or not, it doesn't seem like your heart's really in it. And everybody wants to see what you want to do. People like you. That's why you have this reputation for being this nice guy. James can pretty much do no wrong in the eyes of the public and the Angry Video Game Nerd fans. If you haven't noticed, he comes off as the internet's nicest guy, which I think is fair. He seems like a really genuine nice guy. I've had friends who talk to him at bars after cons and stuff, and never a complaint. Always talking about how nice he is, and he's talked about doing all these movies and still talks about doing movies and stuff, and people want to see it. Let's do it. James, do something that makes you happy. Especially if this ain't it. And that's something you can kind of tell too. He talks about this as if it's a job. Why should he quit? This pays his bills.
But hey, look, this is fun. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. And most importantly, this is my day job. This is how I pay my bills and support my kids. You want me to quit? I'd rather be doing this job than something boring. I'm lucky.
But anyways, that's enough. That's enough rambling. I hope I didn't miss anything. I took some notes and I don't know. I just kind of glared at them back and forth. But there we are. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I overreacting? Is it weird to think that Monster Madness should be all James? It just seems so personal, right? I can't be the only one who believe this was all him. Anyways, there's going to be some links in the description to Cinemassacre Truth, and I don't know. Maybe there's I'll put a link to the Cope video in there. Why not? But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm probably repeating myself several times, but I want to know. And I'm your host, Full Custom Hot Dog. You could follow me on Twitter. It's Full Custom Hot Dog without the last because that's just too long for Twitter. So thank you all for watching, and until next time. If you like what you see,
I love what I see.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you can watch whatever comes next. And if you like the music you hear, you can follow me on SoundCloud and Spotify. Check the description for links.